Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Beyond the Classroom podcast by OnCourse. My name is Rick Hill, and today on the podcast, I have Abhay Tole Trivedi, who has just finished his second year at Ashoka University. Abhay is a history major over there, and he's got another couple of years to go before he finishes, but we'll be hearing from him about his journey today. Welcome, Abhay.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. Really looking forward to interacting with you.
Same here. It's great to have you on board. You've obviously finished 2 years as at Ashoka, as I was just saying. How have those been for you?
Honestly, I think I have gotten the college that was meant for me. I could not have, I think, been happier with my college choice. And because of that, I think for the past 2 years, I've had a really great time. The first year, most of it was online, which was a bit of a downer, but I think things have definitely, I mean, things were great even online, but things have definitely picked up in the offline mode as well. And I mean, I think the reason why I say Ashoka is such a great fit for me is because I've always been into like Indian politics, Indian history, and I mean, Ashoka has one of the best history departments, Indian history departments, I would say, in the world. So because of that, I've really gotten a very, very, I've gotten access to like legends, those who literally write the textbooks in the field and publish the really breakthrough papers. So yeah, I'm very, very, very happy with my choice and very grateful to OnCourse for getting me there.
That's amazing. It's always happy to hear that when you are actually at college that you've had a really good time of it. Usually people associate their happiness with just the admission, but then there's a whole 3 or 4 years depending on where they go. There's a whole 3-4 years to enjoy after that and to make the most of after that, right? So that's really good to hear. So talk us through. I know you mentioned that you're interested in Indian politics, Indian history. Talk us through your decision to choose history as a major.
Yeah, that's interesting. So I think many people will relate to this when I say that when I was applying, I applied with a completely different major, and then what I ended up studying, and now what I'm majoring in is completely different. And just to note on that, actually, before we start, which is I think credit goes to Ashoka for just giving me that kind of flexibility, and to all the other institutions that don't force you to choose your subject when you're like 18 years old. Um, so yeah, but basically I applied with something similar. I applied with political science, and actually economics too. I ended up doing a little bit of economics in college, mostly because many people do economics in college. It's kind of the default. Okay, if you don't want to do the sciences, then do the arts, but like do economics because like you'll get a good job. And like that's honestly what like many people do at Ashoka. Like I know many people who don't really want to do eco, but like just end up studying eco for this reason, or just that they've not found what they like, etc. But I found I hated it. So and I did really badly. And I mean, I think that just goes to show that if you don't like something, don't do it, because like when you don't like it, and you're just not going to understand it as well as the other person that does like it, and therefore will just automatically do well in it. So I mean, you may do well even if you don't like it, but like you're kind of putting yourself on the back foot already, I would say. you know
Yeah,
um
yeah.
yeah, so economics is out of the picture. And actually in my first semester online, I had two absolutely mind-blowing Indian history classes. So Ashoka has this system where all students, regardless of major, have to do these 9 foundation courses. And
Yeah.
in your first semester, you have to do 4 foundation courses only. So you don't, even do your major, minor, intro to eco, and like, history of India 1, etc. kind of course. You just do the foundation courses. So I mean, I was very, very, I don't know, somehow these foundation courses, these specific ones drew me to them. That was Indian civilizations, which is Indian history with Professor Rudranshu Mukherjee and Gopal Krishna Gandhi, and this other course called Economics, Politics, and Society, another foundation course taught by
Okay.
this sociology anthropology professor Ravindran Sri Ramchandran, and that turned out to be more of a modern history kind of course. So we were looking at like Indian independence and the whole freedom struggle, and we read extensive works by Gandhi, Nehru, Ambedkar, etc. So yeah, I mean, I just had such a great time in my first semester because of these two courses, and a philosophy course actually, in which I did some Indian philosophy with Kranti Saran. Um,
Hmm.
that, I mean, honestly, like I haven't given political science an opportunity really, because I just fell in love with history, So I'm actually probably going to, in a couple of free slots I have, pick up some political science, and in my fourth year, maybe just do a couple of courses. But yeah, I mean, it was pretty much that just history just kind of struck me, and I had always liked it. I had liked it in school, etc., etc. But yeah, I think I came to Ashoka and economics was out of the window because I didn't like it, and history just became something I really, really enjoyed.
No, that's a fair point. I feel like, very
Yeah,
often students end up taking courses in college and realizing that, a particular subject might be a better fit than what they actually came in for.
yeah,
And clearly that's happened in your case. And I agree, political science is very closely linked to history.
yeah,
So you definitely benefit from taking classes in
yeah,
that as well. That's the whole point of being in a flexible liberal arts program, not only
yeah,
for you to be able to change your mind, but also to take courses along with your major, right?
yeah.
So I'm glad you're getting that at Ashoka. And we've obviously been chatting about history, but I believe you're quite a fan of geography as well.
um,
Geography maps.
oh well, that's a good question. Actually, I mean, I'm not a fan or interested actually in geography.
Hmm.
But there was this concept, or rather this idea, that really interested me, that I spoke about in my, I think, Ashoka application, and
Yeah,
a similar concept for a couple of other applications, which was this idea of maps. And actually, there's this fantastic show, highly recommended for everyone. It's called The West Wing.
yeah,
It's this American political drama about the president and his staff. And in that, there was this episode where there were these society members who came and met one of the high ups in the White House, and basically just brought out the fact that the map that we look at as the map of the world, the 2D map that's in all your atlases, is just so inherently unequal, right? Because what it does is it basically shrinks the countries that are actually largest in terms of landmass, or the continents such as
yeah,
Africa and India, and it really enlarges the ones that are more towards the north or more towards the south. So that is, your west, the European countries, etc. And yeah, that was really like shocking to me, because like it changed how I kind of viewed the world. And um yeah, so I mean, this was like a kind of concept that kind of played in my mind, that like, is looking at this kind of map, you know I mean, you teach people that, okay, this is the world, right? Like right from third grade, fourth grade, kids look at this map, and they kind of have this bias in them, right? Then therefore that this is their kind of worldview.
yeah,
But yeah, when I kind of saw this episode, like my worldview changed. And in the episode, this society, so they were asked like, okay, so what do you propose? Like, what is the ideal map? And like, a personal note from me, after doing a lot of research for this essay, I realized that there's an inherent problem in taking a three-dimensional figure and putting it onto a two-dimensional map. Because basically, like, just mathematically, you will have some inequality, like, not inequality, but it'll not be exact. um
correct.
there's a map. Basically, then you have to like look for different kinds of maps. You have to look for a map that is accurate in terms of border lengths, or a map that's accurate in terms of land masses, or a map that is not made according to land or borders, but made according to population. So
Correct.
my whole thing was that we should be shown all these maps and said that these are the different ways to view the world, and then kind of you know get be allowed to kind of make your own, and use a map suited to your need, instead of just thinking, okay, this is the one world map and this is the one way to view the world.
Yeah,
So in fact, there are some people who even suggest that the map should be inverted, right? Because the current, like, we view the map as the European countries, North America, etc., on top. But
yeah,
I mean, the earth is a kind of sphere,
ground.
right? So you could just
Yeah,
view it like, you could just kind of turn it around, and that would mean that what the West likes to call the third world countries would be on top. I mean, is there also kind of inherent more less superior inferior dynamic created because of who is in the northern hemisphere and who's in the southern?
Yeah.
So all these kinds of ideas really, yeah, I think that they're somewhat also related to history, because this whole kind of question of colonization and superiority, inferiority, um, yeah, I think these ideas kind of started,
It does.
kind
It
of
does.
took root in my mind. Yeah, then and
This is
after that.
arguably history. This is more history than, if you're looking at your subject, is more history than geography.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah,
and
yeah,
I guess the same applies for even written history. This is, of course, the map thing that we're talking about, but even written history, right? It's an account written by human beings.
yeah,
And a lot of it is from a time where, the human beings happen to come from a civilization which was maybe colonizing another. And so,
yeah,
the account of history could also be blurred. So
yeah,
I feel like that in a way, when you study the social sciences as part of a liberal arts curriculum or even a humanities subject,
yeah,
uh, you start to see how subjective those things can be.
yeah.
So I think that's good that a kid, definitely somebody like you, who's got this critical analysis, oozing out of you in a way. uh, I feel like you're definitely in the right curriculum.
Yeah.
And you probably picked the right major, arguably one of the most controversial majors, but nobody thinks about it like that. So that's
Yeah,
good.
yeah.
Right now you're super happy. You've done 2 years at Ashoka.
Hmm.
You've picked a major that fits you well. The whole journey to get here, though, was not very common. Let's put it that way.
Mm.
Uh,
Yeah,
you I believe you started out at Bombay International School and you were doing the IGCSE curriculum there.
yeah.
Then after your 10th grade, you went to Xavier's for the HSC for 11th and
Hmm.
12th.
Hmm.
And so you went from a British system into an Indian system, and
Hmm.
then moved to Ashoka, which is designed on the American liberal arts system.
Hmm.
So what do you have to say for that? What made you make some of those moves? How did you, end up where you ended up?
So that's a great question. Yeah, my journey has been like very, very different, I would say. Um, but maybe I'll just explain these kind of pivot points in my journey, to maybe better be able to explain why I made these kinds of decisions. So I was in BIS for 12 years. That's
Yeah,
Bombay International. Had a great time. Fantastic ecosystem, great teachers, really caring environment. Small school, only one class per grade. So, there were 30 or 40 10th graders, and that's it. Everyone knows everyone else. It's a home, it's a family. It's still my home, it's still my family.
it's
Um,
literally your home. There's literally
yeah,
homes in
yeah,
that.
it's built in a residential building where half of some of the floors still have like tenants and like residents living in them.
Yeah,
But I think what happened was that the kinds of conversations we were speaking about before, that is thinking about questions of colonization, thinking about of decolonization, kind of took root in my mind at a much earlier stage, in a much more nascent way, I would say, somewhere in the ninth or the 10th grade, and that kind of made me realize that BIS was a bubble. It was a bubble of the same kinds of very elite people from society. And I mean, it was a great environment, as I say, but it was a bubble. It was a little bit disconnected. As you said, I mean, BIS was a part of the British system of education. And unfortunately, the reality is that when these international curriculums have kind of come into India, they have not been Indianized at all. So I
mm,
mean, in some way, I mean, some kinds of nationalists, and not in the kind of right wing sense today, but kind of the nationalists of modern India, that is, your 75 years ago, would call this a form of colonization. You know, uh, you know, but basically, so that like for example, the India studies subject that I think the IB or the IGCSE offers is not being offered anymore because not enough schools took it. And
yeah,
Mumbai is the city with the highest concentration of IBDP schools across the world. So
yeah,
it's really shocking, right? And this kind of, there was a kind of push and pull in my kind of heart, because I love BIS on one hand, but on the other hand, I was feeling a bit uncomfortable. I kind of wanted to, kind of, uh, you know, uh, just kind of be in a setting that perhaps, more kind of resembled what, other people from my country were exposed to, and, stuff like that, which is why I went to HSC. This said, Xavier's gave me a lot extracurricularly. It was amazing. It gave me a lot of extra time. I worked a part-time job,
Hmm.
in like 11th and 12th grade with this youth leadership organization and stuff. So, like I made the most of the opportunity there. Academically, I'll be very honest, I didn't learn very much, but, the teachers were very sweet, very, very kind of warm, comforting. They were open to my ideas and stuff like that. So I have a
Yeah.
lot to be grateful for at Xavier's. And I also kind of made that switch to Xavier's because I knew of Ashoka as an option to do my, bachelor's and Kriya and these other kinds of new liberal arts colleges in India before I made the switch to Xavier's. And I knew that, even with my kind of switch to Xavier's, I wouldn't really be affecting my chance of getting in there, you know.
Yeah, yeah, and even your
Yeah,
chances of getting in abroad. I mean, I know you did really well in terms of your US admissions also. I believe you got into Vanderbilt. I believe you got into North Carolina, Chapel Hill. So
yeah, yeah,
it didn't affect, and a lot of people actually ask us this. They
yeah,
they ask us, don't we need to do IB, or don't we need to do whichever foreign curriculum if we are applying to universities abroad, which is not true. I mean, sure, the IB might better prepare you for an international
true.
education than maybe something else, but as you're a living example of, and that this happens quite often as well, of how a kid in an ISC board or an HSC board or a CBSE board, um, when they apply to colleges in, let's say, the US, it really depends on how well they've done. And so you got that. So you had, in the end, yes, you went to Xavier's because you had those thoughts of staying back in India, and that would obviously make it easier to do that. But
Yeah,
you still have the option to choose in the end, between the US and
yeah,
Ashok.
yeah. I mean, what you say is true, I would say, on the whole, but I actually just want to kind of come in with a comment that maybe is a bit against that, which is,
Hmm.
see, it's not that you can't do it. I did it, but it's that the system, I mean, at least in HSC, is not set up for the kinds of things that abroad applications require.
Yeah.
Something simple like the fact that there is a certain way that you need to write a recommendation letter. The teachers that I had in 11th and 12th, they could write recommendation letters, but there's a kind of way that you need to write a letter to kind of give an insight into the character of the student, you know,
Yes.
and, you know, I kind of got the impression, I mean, obviously I didn't see my own letters, but I got the impression that, it would not, it was not, it wasn't the way that it would have been written by, say, a teacher at BIS. You know what I mean?
Goes without saying.
And
Goes without saying.
and it's not just that. It's also how well the college you're applying to understands your board, right? I was actually at a disadvantage because SATs also weren't. I was a COVID applicant, so I didn't even have my SAT score. So I mean, I don't know how all these colleges took me, honestly, because I doubt any of them know what I had been studying. So I mean, what I would say is just the board, as you said, perhaps doesn't matter. Just ensure that the college that you are going to, I mean, not college, the program, the high school you're going to for 11th and 12th is able to cater to the requirements of applying abroad. So ensure that they have someone who knows how to use the, college application, common app software.
Yeah.
Like that wasn't something that, my counselor knew how to do. So I had to kind of help them through that as well. So just ensure that that's there, that the place is ready to give you predicted grades and all of that before you apply, because it was a bit of a struggle in my case.
Yeah, I agree. I agree, and it's always down to majority. If you were graduating, and when I say graduating now, I mean post 12th grade, right? So if you were
Yeah,
finishing your 12th at BIS, or if you were finishing at Cathedral or
yeah,
BD Somani or Hillspring or
yeah,
Ambani or whichever school
yeah,
really which has an IB program,
yeah,
um, most of those kids, I mean, there's definitely some who are staying back in India after that,
yeah,
right? But most of them will go somewhere outside. And
yeah,
so, because the majority is going outside, they have people hired in those schools
Yeah.
who are organizing your transcripts and
Yeah.
recommendations and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
When you go somewhere to a junior college, say for example, like a Xavier's, like a Jai Hind, HR,
Yeah.
whatever, um, it doesn't close your options. That's absolutely not the case. But
Yeah.
yeah, as you said, and this part, was very accurate. Because most of their kids are staying back in the Indian
Yeah.
colleges for their undergrad degrees, there you become the minority, right? And so there you're ending up chasing teachers to write a recommendation. You might be the only one, or maybe two or three kids in your
Yeah.
batch are
Yeah.
the only ones doing this. This is not a priority in their mind.
Yeah.
So I think changing that will take time, because
Yeah.
most kids are still funneling into the typical
Yeah.
University of Mumbai system.
Yeah.
But that's a fair point, though. I think not
No.
everybody should make that move that you made.
Yeah. No,
Um,
no. I mean, what I will say is that if you want to, like, if you are thinking of going abroad, so honestly, I was not thinking of going abroad, which is why I made the change to HSC. The fact
yeah.
that I applied abroad is a different, thing altogether, where I kind of thought, why not just throw my hat in the ring? If I, get
Mm,
into a great place and get a fantastic scholarship, maybe I'll go. Because
mm,
finances were also, part of my decision.
yeah.
Going abroad is
Yeah.
very expensive for your undergrad. So that's why I kind of did the HSC. But I would say if you are someone who is going to, is really actively thinking of going abroad,
Yeah.
and yeah, you're going to apply to India, but also abroad, but like, you want to have abroad options and like you want to have good abroad options, then I would say find an Indian system such that the administration can help you. So for
Yeah.
example, a lot of
Yeah.
CBSE kids from Delhi go abroad, but I'm
Yeah.
not sure that same culture exists in Mumbai, you know.
No. Yeah.
Um,
In fact,
yeah,
the CBSE schools
yeah,
are very familiar, and it's like a mainstream thing for them to send kids abroad. So
yeah.
there's definitely a difference there between the Delhi and Bombay schools for sure.
Exactly, exactly. So like just kind of find, like, make sure that the like school you're going to just knows how to do it. That's all my point is,
Yeah.
But yeah,
No, but I think that's definitely a good point. Also, very maturely put. It's and also never a one size fits all, which is
yeah,
important. But yeah, I think these are always interesting stories, because often people just talk about, oh, where did this kid go, where did that kid
yeah,
go. They end up at a particular college, but the route maybe to that same college is also often very different.
yeah,
So I think that's also nice to appreciate. And Abhay, I know we've already sort of gone a little bit over our time limit, but there's one
sure,
other interesting thing that I wanted to chat with you about on your profile, is that
okay,
and this is obviously pretty rare, but
hmm,
you're a Kathak dancer, I believe.
yes,
Yes, and how can you? I mean, I don't want to ask any more questions. Why don't you talk us through that?
for sure. So Kathak has been a part of my life since I was 4. I'm now 21.
Yeah.
I have a fantastic, fantastic teacher who has been guiding me all throughout, Guru Sanjukta Wag. And yeah, it's just part of my being. It's almost second nature to me. Um, and to be very honest, I've had a kind of up and down journey with it. At the start, I got into it actually because my mother used to learn from the same teacher,
Hmm.
and she just took me along one day, and I fell in love with it after that. So from a very early age, I was in love with it, dancing, happy kid, thinking it's completely normal. And then unfortunately, societal stigmas and stuff like that, were, I wouldn't say imposed on me in a very active way, but kind of subtly, like behind my back. I knew people would say things, and I knew people, would think I was different. And initially I didn't mind, but eventually, it kind of did get to me. So I went through a phase, I would say, in like eighth, ninth, and 10th, where I stopped dancing that much, and,
Yeah.
yeah, but I kind of came back to it. I think that's the best part as I matured. And
Yeah.
I realized that my love for it is just more important than all these things. And so, what if I'm different? It just gives me it's
Yeah.
good that I'm different. It's time to kind of break these, stigmas and tear away all these labels. And Yeah, it's a very integral part of my college too, and I think this is why I really say Ashoka is a great fit for me, because going to an Indian college that gives me fantastic academics, but also has Abhinaya, a dance society that is meant, for both Indian and Western, but that has a Kathak
Hmm.
team within it,
Yeah.
where I literally have eight, last year. I mean, we did a pure Kathak performance twice at Ashoka. We've taken a pure Kathak dance performance to a couple of competitions across, the Delhi NCR circuit as well. So, I mean, it's kind of an unparalleled opportunity. Like in which other college out of India would I have gotten a Kathak team to continue practicing and dancing with? You know,
Fair.
um,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, yeah. And in many ways, I just last comment. I know I've exceeded my time, but I think the
Don't
beauty
worry.
of Ashoka and of Kathak is that I'm looking to kind of merge the two. So I'm going to try to see if I can do some kind of dance history and actually write a
Yeah,
thesis on that. And you've got academics such as Justin, Professor McCarthy, and Professor Johar, etc. at Ashoka, who like do classical dance and teach and research, etc. So it's just like a great community and ecosystem for me to like kind of forge my own way,
yeah.
combine history, combine Kathak, combine my passions for these things, and kind of like really make the most of it and also like gain a lot from it as well. So yeah, just thank you so much to OnCourse for making it possible. And I hope I had something valuable to share in
No,
this podcast.
absolutely,
Yeah,
absolutely. I think your application was very unique in that sense. Your whole journey to Ashoka was also quite unique.
yeah,
But in the end, I feel like if you end up at a place you end up liking,
yeah,
then that's all that matters. And also, this is not just any place. I feel like this Ashoka will probably go down in history as a college which changed the way things are done in India, at least from an
yeah,
education perspective.
yeah,
So there is that as well, which maybe today maybe you've already recognized it, but maybe in 20 years time it'll feel a lot bigger as well.
yeah.
So that's good. But no, I think it was great hearing from you on all of these things, Abhay. Thank you so much for taking the time to be on our podcast, and we'll end today's episode here. So, wish you the best for your remaining time at Ashoka, and feel free to drop in.
Thank you so much. See you.
Yeah. All right. Take care.